How you doing, guys? I've got I've got to get put some announcements up that we're having a live stream right now, so bear with me. Um, Today is one of those days where we get to talk about anything we want to about watches. It's unplanned, irresponsible, and lots of fun. So anyway, as soon as you log on, let me know what you want. How you doing? You made it. Hi, Mark. Hi, Killer. Uh, Give me a moment while I get all of these things, these announcements out. How you doing, 9/11? Okay, live. Hey, Tony. Hi, Alberto. John. Good to see you guys. I'm putting up some announcements now, so tell me what you'd like to talk about today. We've got lots of topics. Okay, okay. It's 17:13 in Italy, so that'd be in the afternoon. Is that after work there, Alberto? Get the guys from Oklahoma. How are things in South Padre Island? Okay, I'm back. Okay, Killer. Thoughts on the pre-owned market in the past year or so? I feel like prices have been up across the board for pieces I've been interested in. Boy, that's a good topic too, because I think you're right. There was a time, in fact, I think I got one on now. This is a Daniel Roth retrograde. You could pick those things up, the Daniel Roth ones that were made during the early 2000s and the late 90s. You could pick them up for around maybe 3,000, right around there, 3,000 US dollars. Now they're way up there, and 8, 9, $10 or 10,000. The thing about it is that um, Daniel Roth has not been in the best of health. Okay, last year when I was at the Grand Prix that in Geneva, he had some kind of award, and somebody had to come and pick it up for him because he didn't show up. So that I think some of these older guys that had things, including Daniel Roth, Roger Dubuis, um, yeah, they've been up. Now the popular watches, and by popular watches, I mean like Rolexes and Omegas and the usual suspects. They had, they've gone up too. The I don't keep much of a close watch of those because, quite frankly, most of them don't interest me too much in terms of what they've done with horology. Every now and then they'll do something really great, but that's, something I haven't hold my breath about. More and more of them, it seems that Rolex is starting to go into silicon and for hairsprings. Swatch already has, Patek Philippe has. So I think some people like me don't like it. Okay, they like watches with regulators. Even without regulators, where you have a free spun uh, balance on it. So you know, but what is really rocking right now is these stupid tariffs we got going in the U.S. They're they're really causing major problems without solving any problems, and that sort of bothers me. I know, talking about luxury items like watches doesn't probably is not going to move the needle one way or the other because we really represent such a small proportion or small percentage of, at least in the United States, of the world people who are worried about things. But overall, there are other things that are going up and up. And as prices go up in general because of these kinds of things, what happens is that there's less available resources for getting things like watches, and so it's really messy right now. I think Swiss watches in the United States. Um, I mean, I've got to the point until the tariffs go down. Now, the effect that this has is that Larique, we're trying to get. First of all, we're trying to get the dials that were fixed from Comblain Mine because they had the first batch they sent us had all oxidized, and so they had to redo them, and they're taking their sweet time doing that and not giving the quality that they had, that they're known for. So we're sort of, we're worried that they're gonna, when they return it, they're gonna say, "Oh, well, we got to put our tariffs on that." I hope not. Um, so I don't know. Those kinds of things are a concern. So when if prices are going up, but other prices I've seen going down too. So certain brands they seem to be slipping. IWC is one that people seem to have lost a lot of interest in. Even though there's some IWC I really like, but there's some policies that IWC has that I'm not crazy about. But the fact is they still have hairsprings made out of transition metals, and so they're okay. There is a Tutima Patria being auctioned off in Japan currently, 1100 USD. Someone is going to get insane deal on that. Wow, I agree 100%. Also, too, the thing about the Patria, they're made in Germany, and I don't know if what the tariffs are like 10 or 15%, whereas they're 39%. And it doesn't matter where they're coming from; it's the place of origin. So if you buy a Swiss watch from Japan, and a lot of good ones are available, at least coming into the United States, you're going to pay that 39% on them, which is a lot. Yeah, you're right, though. That's something that you may be interested in going after. Yeah, uh, I agree, Killer. IWC, at some point, they were the bulk of the watches that they were selling were the less expensive ones, and they had ETA movements in them, or I think a little later, they still do, are Solita movements. And they're sort of the origin of the movements are masked by sort of a reference number that sounds, I mean, a caliber number that sort of mask the fact of what they really are, and that's sort of too bad. But I don't know. Um, what I'm looking for still, I'm looking for someone that's going to come along and do something with one of the really great kinds of traditional or tradition innovated, and that doesn't mean slapping plastic and silicon on things, but rather figure out a way to do something a little more interesting. One of my favorite right now is Luca Soprana, who took Derek Pratt's uh, his repertoire Galate and implemented it. And I'm hoping to see more like that with this caveat: less expensive. That would be a big one. I know that the guys at Larique would certainly like to do something like that. There's a there is a project that is sort of like semi-secret right now that I'm working on with some of the guys at some of the guys somewhere. it's it's my sort of under the radar right now because I hate to say, well, this is what we're going to do, and then end up not doing it. But this is something I'd really like to do. I still got the E2 number 2 has become a monkey on my back, and I just got to get that thing done, and then concentrate on Arizulu, which is just looking fantastic. And then on to some next things. Abdul has this great stuff he's doing with Air but now I think the next step for Larique is to get into some constant force or something really cool like that. And the thing of it is that Larique and I'm not just talking about Larique. What I would like to see are other guys say, hey, if Larique can do it, we can do the same thing. Why don't we get a bunch of guys together and we'll pool our resources and we'll go to a watchmaker and say, hey, this is what we would like. We'd like to do the same thing as well. And I think that at that point, and again, this is not bad. This is not undermining Swiss watchmaking. It's quite the opposite, because what we're doing is we're buying Swiss movements, Swiss cases, Swiss dials, Swiss hands, Swiss strap, the whole thing. What we're not doing is that we're not feeding the middleman. Now, there's nothing wrong with the middleman, because we found out that the middleman role is significant. He's got to do a lot of stuff to get things from the watchmaker to the public. But we decided we weren't willing to. Well, matter of willing, we couldn't afford to do what they do. So instead of ending up with a $50,000 watch or higher, we're able to do the same thing for around 10, and then we have it over a period of time where we pay into it a little at a time. So rather than curse and say, look, those guys have their prices are going up, let's do something about it. And I'm not talking, see, Larique is not in competition with anybody. We really aren't. We're just like people who have a certain amount of resources, uh, beer budgets, and champagne taste. And so we got to figure out how, with our beer budget, can we go ahead with it. Um, I was looking at LNH, Maritz Grossman, Gronfeld, and the like. All of the pieces I've been tracking are quite a bit up from where I last remember seeing them. You know, I guess I don't know what's going on, really, to tell you the truth. Um, and again, like, as they go up, rather than saying, "Oh, why, you dirty rat, you're raising it so we can't afford them," do something about it. And there's lots of different ways to do this. Um, One of the ones where I think we would sort of like, especially if these stupid tariffs don't go down pretty soon, is get most of the parts and then assemble them somewhere else. You know. Hey, Dartmouth. Hi, Brendan. How you doing? There's an Aeronano carbon true hairsprings. Okay. Aeronano carbon. Oh yeah, Brendan. Yeah, this is something that's really interesting. Carol, I think that's her name. Carol Kasapi, Carol Forstier Kasapi, who's the movement guru at Tag Heuer. I know that she was working on some stuff with carbon hairsprings. Um, yeah, that's sort of an interesting thing that's going on. Hi, Mil Goss, 88. The Gronfeld Principa is down about 25%. Oh, that's good to hear. I just like all of their watches, all of the ones I can't afford, but I like them. The one Gronfeld I really like is they do have a Remontois, but the when they first came out, it was around $50,000, sort of 50,000 over what I've got. Yeah, killer. That's what would be great. If we could do that. The problem is if finding a watchmaker. See, what I was thinking of doing is approaching Luca Soprana and saying, "Look, Luca, you know, I mean, with a name like Luca Soprana, I just, he was what guys, but Larique works best. Really, this is true with watch movement makers who care about horology. I mean, we really do. And I think we clearly communicate that. And so instead of looking at, a bunch of people with, for some quick buck outfit, we'd like to work with somebody who has something like that. Now, maybe we could have an arrangement, something like Agenhor has with H. Moser, and that is saying, talk to Luke and say, look, if we could get the maybe the tooling and the design for the way you implemented the Derek Pratt Remontois, and then pay him whatever would that we could afford, and which might be, could be a lot. I hope not, but it could be. And then sort of work it from that way, and then have Agenor do the production of it, even though they're not. I mean, they're all handmade. The thing of it is that you figure out a way that works for everybody, not just for you. And I think if we do that, then you can have things like we've got going. And I mean, the fact that we're on watch number 4 with Agenor right now, and we've got different parts of number 3 already produced. Why not? I mean, and these are not simple off the shelf movements. All of the movements we have been unique. The difference between AGH 6801 and 6802 are minor, but the 6802 really is a better movement for the same thing, for a base movement. Now we're getting into we've got the Arizulu has dual snail cams and a what would be considered a GMT arm, which is our Zulu arm, because we're trying to work it into a modern pilot's watch, and a modern pilot runs everything on Zulu time. Arizulu is the French pronunciation, close to it anyway. The way I would do it is simply means Zulu hour. So see, the thing of it is that we can do stuff, and it's like, but we can't do anything new if we just sit around and whine about the prices going up. Like, Okay, enough of that. Off my soapbox. Hi, Forbin. No one home in the Larique marketing department. The Madison Avenue madmen aren't having any three martini lunches on the. No, they're not. I mean, they're not even having a three Pepsi on it. Carbon cracks. It does. It does on carbon fiber bicycle frames. Okay, yeah. This is why I like. What is so bad about transition metals? You have the Strawman hairspring, the Parachrom hairspring. Those are great hairsprings that they're not exactly high magnetic. They're very low magnetic. Uh, and if over time, as a hairspring is used, it's going to need a little adjustment with it, and they have regulators that'll do that. So, hey. Hi, Finnegan the Ninja. How you doing? Junior, good morning. How are you today? Do you think the new exotic materials for movements are popular among collectors? Using traditional mechanics and hairspring, but making the gears out of something like carbon fiber, for example? Boy, that's a good question. I just don't know. Um, I think, I don't have, there are a lot of things. I don't have a problem, for example, with silicon escape wheels, but because they don't change anything other than their very low magnetic attraction. So that's why, okay, knock yourself out in that in that department. I don't know the way that they get knocked around though. With how brittle that relative brittleness of silicon, I don't know how long those guys would last. I really don't. Maybe they, on the other hand, there's a lot of hardness that you can put into a something made of transition metals, and yet have both a something that's not going to break or something that is not going to act like a giant magnet. Uh, the Strawman hairspring and balance wheel and escape wheel, all of those together are an example. Same thing with the Rolex Parachrom working. Hey, Alberto. No. Okay. Says no. Alberto's a lawyer. That's okay. You can still join us, Alberto. We're not that way about lawyers. we, we we like lawyers. Do synthetics eliminate the need for lubrication? Probably a lot of them do, I would guess. But they could, you know, it's like the very best watchmakers have sort of they get their skills from dealing with ancient, real almost, I guess ancient may not be the word, but older watches, restoration. They do watch restoration, and so they're working with the older metals and the older materials, and they develop these great skills. You take F.P. Jorn, Kari Voutilainen, just about all of them have gone through a period where they're working with restoration. So the need. So the question is, what do you need? Newer materials are sort of going back and trying to bring back the craftsmanship and skills that were so admired. Now, some of the younger guys are doing exactly that. Cyril what's his name? The young French guy does these beautiful watches. Betterman and those two guys they're both Swiss. Um, they're doing it, and so there's like that's really great. The problem is their prices are really high. They're not dumb. Like my basic alloys, me too. Hey, Brendan, supposedly the coaxial escapement didn't need lubrication. Huh. Um, I could see why it would need less lubrication, but wouldn't need any with all the moving parts there. I'm not sure. I can see why because they have two different parts working on different things. And so one is not overworked. How's that sound for a half-ass explanation? I don't know. Brendan, where did you hear that they don't need any kind of lubrication? I know they would need less, and I could see that, but I'm not sure they don't need any. A lot of the modern lubricants too that they use that they stick in at the outset, they don't decay very quickly at all. Uh, okay. Killer Audio, LVH, um, Louis Vuitton. Is that Louis Vuitton, LVMH, or is that somebody else? I think it was theoretical. I'm not sure if it played out that way. I'll look around. Thanks, Brendan. Smoko, but not for sliding action of Swiss lever escapement. Lin Yang Hui. You know, they haven't. They haven't gone. Right now, we're concentrating on is pretty much um, the Swiss everything movements, uh, the whole 9 yards on that, and the the Chinese watchmakers, they're getting better and better and better. And by that I mean there are more of them. At one see there is so much of the sort of rebuilding of the watchmaking sort of art in China has to do with certain factories that were originally in the US. They bought the factory. I forgot the name of it. And they did other kinds of things, but their focus was on making them for everybody, not just for the elite. And that's sort of something that I think is somewhere there, is that look, we had our emperor and all of that, and we don't want to be that way anymore. And so you have a history that doesn't sort of like we're not that's not our target audience. Our target audience is sort of the common person who wants to watch. Given that, then, but there's some of this undertone. You got to watch out sort of for its underlying culture can do all kinds of things. It's like an invisible heat shield, and it doesn't matter what government you have. Once you tap into that, you get into some really interesting places in terms of what people will be doing. So we'll see about China. Yeah, I know who Lin Yang who is right now, Killer. See, but that's something that because Larique isn't doing it doesn't mean it's not a good idea for someone to do it. This is what I'm saying. Larique doesn't see itself as being in competition with anyone. Um, at the current time, we're not because no one else is doing exactly the same thing. There's some cooperatives, and I think that's great. I think the more cooperatives there are among watch collectors, the better off. I think we were Abdul and I were blue sky the other day, and the fact that Larique can get along with get along, and I'm saying get along with any like any dysfunctional family. We make things happen together. That we should be a model for the UN, in world peace, because we have such a mix of people from all over the world. I think the only continent we don't have anyone from is Antarctica. Every everywhere else, including subcontinents and different kinds of places, where we're all talking watches, peace through watch collection, something like that. Daniels made claim about no lubrication, but I think they had to work on it and refine it. Not certain if it yet led up to that. Okay. I received a Tansy Who, another AHCI rainbow piece, and the finish is absolutely stunning. Got my beveling is just nuts. A guy that I know who is doing a lot of that kind of work is in Singapore, and that's Benjamin Chi. So he's doing some stuff with Close and May in enameling. Ming is doing some stuff with just about everything. I got a Ming bracelet, and I'll tell you that thing would be hard to match by anyone. You can take the finest Rolex bracelet or the finest other bracelet, and I'd match them up any day. And I'm a big fan of Parmigiani bracelets, so yeah, you can do. There's some things you can do. Larique isn't doing that, but that doesn't mean some other guys can get together and say, "Hey, let's do this." Next thing you know, you got a remontoire. You got a, another thing that's a really interesting thing is that Romain Gautier did instead of doing a chain and fusee, he did a chain and snail cam, and the fusee is like a little tower, and so that's going to make your watch fatter. And what he did with a snail cam, the he had the chain go around the snail cam, then boom down, and then back to the beginning again, and just keep and doing exactly the same thing that a fusee does, except without sort of the towers of Hanoi wrapping it up like that. And I know they've squished down the fusees as well. Yeah. I thought Benjamin was he may be in Hong Kong. I thought he was in Singapore, though. You could be right, Killer. No, you're probably right, come to think of it. He sent me some watches a while back that he did, and I reviewed them and sent them back to him. And I think you're right. It is Hong Kong. Um, I'm not sure, but I think. From the book knowledge on coaxial Wikipedia, this makes lubrication on the pallets theoretically unnecessary. Hmm. That could be true. I never think of the pallets as needing the lubrication, but I suppose so. On a Swiss like that, the pallets out here that are sticking out there, they're made of rubies, and so I mean, like, I don't think they're supposed to wear out, but maybe they could use a little lube on those. I don't know. Yeah, but that's good though. Right now, I'm reading. Oh God, I took it in the other room. It's called The Alchemy of Horology, something like that, and it's by, ah, the guy who runs, uh, not the Bui, but something like that. Um, he's got a name I always had trouble with, even beside forgetting it. But I've been reading it, and his is sort of an interesting approach, which would probably be different from than mine, such as it is. But there, the thing that he talks about, I think that's important, is sort of like finding this spirit of craftsmanship and sort of the desire to make the most accurate watch possible within certain parameters. It's sort of like, let's say you're making balloon animals, all right? And you want to make a perfect balloon animal. And so instead of using balloons, you use clay. Okay. And then you fire the clay. And so you got this balloon animal made out of fired clay. Well, it's no longer a balloon animal. And I think that's sort of, you start adding all kinds of different kinds of things to watches, and they're no longer the kind of watch that you started collecting, or the sort of the whole concept of collecting. But okay, smoko. Yes, that's exactly what I was wondering about. Yeah, the pallets themselves wouldn't need it, but the teeth of the escape wheel would. Good point. That was what I was thinking too. The little grease on those wheels. When I took the Horological Society of New York's, they had this weekend course on watchmaking, and we disassembled and reassembled a 6498. And one of the things that they had promised, I'm still waiting for, is a course in lubrication. But what they said ahead of time was that, lubrication is you've got there are different weights of lubricant that you have to use, and all of these different things you have to deal with lubrication. If you overdo lubrication, you have to take the watch apart, take all the added lube out, and then put it back together again. So, you know, I bought the lubrication droplets and everything, but I've been too chicken to try it yet. I I don't know, Killer. I just signed up for them through the Horological Society of New York. They have them announced. They also have them. They also have a road show. They've gone to. I think they've had them. Let's see. They may have had them in Chicago and on the West Coast, but I also know I think they had one in Australia. They have them in London, some other different places. Take a look at the Horological Society of New York and see what they're doing with them. Um, they have a whole lot of them during the week, but my God, if you got it right now, I think it was right now or a couple of weeks ago, we went to New York and we stayed with our daughter. But the reason we did it is that the hotels were like $900 a night. And these are for hotels that usually aren't. And it turned out that the UN was in session and there was a big tennis championship going on. And so it just wasn't, as things got tight, prices just went sky high. Going for the watch time show in about 3 weeks from now in New York, the prices are about a third of what they were recently. So as far as the courses, but even that, you go and you spend a couple $100 a night, and then it costs, you've got to, It's about for us, it's about an hour drive down to the train station, then another 2-hour drive on Metro North and into Grand Central, and then, then we from there, so it's sort of a lot just for one night. On the other hand, for a weekend, it's certainly worth it, and that's I took 3 they had really 3 courses all at once. And, I had taken a course they had an online course, and I used the Solita 200, I think, or 201 hand wound, and, I learned a whole lot about watchmaking, and I lost enough parts on my Solita, I never could get it back together again. So, there are all kinds of things I learned. When Dominic and I, were took the for the 2, uh, we took 2 6498s or 97s, I don't know what they were, to get them working in, residence. I had to take the balance wheel and spring out. Now that wasn't hard. Putting them back in though and getting them working right because they gotta go in at just a certain place was really hard, and 2 of them I got out, and only one of them I got in and got the watch working again, so I had to get another one. Oh, wow. Oh, Brendan, that would using oil. I don't know, they're using all kinds of stuff. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know the details of it, and like I said, I'm hoping they'll have that class. Uh, if I could get that, it'd be a lot of fun to go to that. Airbnb ban. Oh, there's an Airbnb ban? That's what my son does when he comes out from, he's out in California, he comes out every now and he'll stay in, Airbnb, and he stayed in one in, Bedford-Stuyvesant. We got a really good price. He told me, though, he said Bed-Stuy, I guess is the for it. He said, "That place used to have a reputation." He says, "Just no longer true." So, anyway, okay, what else is going on about watches that we need a serious discussion about? Anything you guys can think of? By the way, Brendan, speaking of watches from oil companies, there's this one Tag Heuer, I think it's a Monaco, I'm not sure, but one of the Monaco versions has the color scheme instead of an orange and blue from an oil company. I love that watch. Yeah, who's going to Watch Time? Anybody going Friday night to Watch Time? We're gonna try to coordinate and so we can all get together. Maybe, it starts at 5:30 and, the first line isn't to a watch, but it's to the bar. And then after that, uh, see all the new watches. I don't know, every year for the last few years, I've been trying to talk, Christine Hutter into a deal where we could buy some, uh, hematics from her, and she keeps saying yes, but later. It's like, well, you know, every time that the later comes, I say, oh, we'll need a couple more years on that one. So I I'll just make nice with Ken, but I'm not gonna. I don't think we do anything there. I was hoping to meet with Edward Milan and maybe something we could work out with H. Moser. So yeah, I'm going to go to that definitely. Anybody else going? In Italy, we don't have jokes about us. Well, I tell you, there probably a lot of jokes about Americans right now. I I know a lot of people are not happy with this, so that's don't feel bad, Alberto. Geneva Watch Days came and went without much fanfare. Does anyone see anything interesting in that show? Oh, I think, a lot of these shows, you talk to these guys in Geneva and maybe retailers and stuff. I think a lot of people right now are, here you have this major market suddenly has thrown a monkey wrench into it. And I know a lot of people are concerned about that and they're trying to get that fixed. But 9/11, I don't know. There's a show that's really an important show, and I wish I could go to this someday. And what it is, it's all of the vendors, the people who make the dials, the cases, the hands, and they have this show. I forgot the name of it, but I know that every year they have it. I hear our designer Matthew always goes to that. Not only is our designer, he's got Mida, his own little watch company that he and his partners are working on. Bribe her with a Larique. Well, that's what we're trying. She's got, I don't know. I have one Maurice Grossman watch, and it is a fantastic watch. I really like it. The idea, though, of a hamatic, I guess would be a rotor, a hamatic rotor, a thing going back and forth like that, instead of a rotor going around. I just thought would be the very cool thing. Uh, Another one too, I think it would be really fantastic is something with Vincent Calabrese and that Calcis. That I think is another interesting project that Larique or some group like Larique could do. Are you guys familiar with the Calcis that Vincent Calabrese has? Yeah, Berthold's. I love that stuff too. Forbin suggests a vid by Watches TV about the effects of Trump tariffs on Swiss watches, titled August 2025, Will the Swiss watch industry survive? I'm worried about the American economy surviving. God, I don't know. I sort of have I've got my doubts about a guy who's had 6 bankruptcies and convicted felon for, oh God, I just don't know. I don't like politicians in general. But I tell you, um, uh, never mind. I don't want to talk about politics at all, except how they directly affect us, and tariffs is one of them. Yeah, Brendan, you're right. Um, we'll have one crisis after another. It'll be something else. God knows what's next. Everything is driving us. I mean, right now it's sort of like a perfect storm. There's war going on in Ukraine. They got invaded. The thing with Israel and Palestine is horrible. There's some other things going on that we rarely hear about. There's some terrible things going on in Africa, especially in southern Sudan. India on the border with Pakistan, that worries me too, and I'm sure it worries both the Pakistanis and the Indians. There's more stuff going on. I tell you, a lot of people literally just stop watching TV. so so this is why, going back to think that Abdul and I are convinced that world peace is through watch collectors. Forbin, unrelenting inflation, superheated with tariffs, quite a presidential achievement. The big alliance. I don't know. I don't know. Um, I saw this thing that they have. They got this stuff about everybody likes to get nostalgia about, they get all teary-eyed about back in the good old days in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. They got short memories, I'll put it that way. There was there was stuff going on, my God. Uh, during this is just the United States. In the rest of the world, there was all kinds of other stuff going on that people were trying to cope with as well. So this is just another one of those things, I think. Larique Model UN Summit when? Yeah, that's an idea. We'll have a Model UN. We've already got it. We got people from all over the world. We sound more like a family discussing stuff. We don't agree on everything, but that's okay because we know we gotta all sort of live together through this. And it's really a good bunch of guys. We have one woman, and I wish she would participate more. We're very much open to any women who would like to join us. Yeah, milk us. Yeah, watching the news is no fun. Oh, there's Abdul. Yeah, I was just talking about you, Abdul. I was talking about how we decided that watch collectors should be running the world since we can achieve world peace better than anyone. Hi, Gennaro Jara. Finally got a live stream. Okay, Dr. A and B, how you doing? I think as humans, we're not made to hear news from all over the globe. We should take care of our surroundings. If everybody did the same, it'd be great. Hey, that along those lines, let me just sort of provide something with perspective. One of my grandfathers at one time was a sheriff, and this is back in the early 20th century, okay, in Kentucky. And I was, my dad gave us a number of these. They were like subpoenas, okay, or arrest warrants and things like that. They're beautifully, all of them were handwritten. But the thing of it was that, and I think this goes to what Abdul just said about we shouldn't know about everything. Back then, you know, you didn't know the stuff that was going on that people were doing that were really awful. But looking at the number of these arrest warrants and sheets, they were doing the same kind of crazy crap that they're doing today. But the difference is that there can be an earthquake in some remote spot in China, and I'll find out about it as soon as somebody watching TV in Beijing. And we have that, and it's sort of like uh, there are two ways of looking at it. We have, oh, it's better them than us. And I'm sure they look at us here. We're doing these crazy guys doing all kinds of nuts. And I'm glad we're not there. Half the country's on fire. The other half is flooded. Just, yeah, I don't know why. It's just like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to find out about someplace else that's having problems, and I'll feel better. Uh, Okay, never mind. Yeah, yeah, smoke on. Oh, hey, Ferdy. Yeah, I'm afraid if we make it a religion, some nut'll shoot us. Yeah. Original Platinum Kate Senator just released with the Aventura dial. Glasuti Original Platinum Case Senator. That sounds like a yummy one. Hey, Doc A and B, I think the horological will keep you focused in positivity in pieces and rewards from all negativity around us. I think That's, either that or the negativity is so minor, like we're worried sick about the oxidation of our dials, like, but the world goes on. That's You're right, that's a good point. Yeah, National Guard doing a tour. I have my one of my sons lives just south of Portland. Thank God it's south of Portland, and they're gonna send in and they're gonna clean up the crime there. The people in what crime? I don't know if they've ever been to Portland before. Portland is, Portland's got protests, but it's not a very high crime city. Um, the town that I live in has got a very low crime rate. Um, very low. It's way below not only the national average, but a lot of other averages. And it's not a rich town. We have we're sort of we're just sort of a town that gets along pretty well. you know, I tell you something. Years ago, I was studying European criminology. I was at the University of Leiden in Holland, and I was on a train between Den Haag, which I can't say because I can't pronounce it because it gives me a sore throat to try to speak Dutch. So, but it was between The Hague and Amsterdam, and we were on our train. I was with this criminology professor, a Dutch criminology professor, and we were going by. I said, you guys have such a low crime rate. It seems like all the cops and the criminals are on first name basis with each other. I said, how do you guys do it? And we went by this one place, and there are some houses and a whole bunch of stuff. He said, see that over there? He said, what you'll find the rich and the poor all together in the same place. And so there's not this kind of division. And by sheer chance, the street that I live on, it's about 4 miles long, and it's pretty rural. Same thing. We've got people from all different kinds of backgrounds, and we all get along. I mean, we don't go out and hold hands and dance around and singing Kumbala, but we just like everybody gets along fine. Yeah, Smoko, it is a relaxing thing about that. Hey, Caesar, good to see you. We're just being irresponsible and talking about whatever we want to talk about, watches, and a few other things too. Oh, we just finished solving world peace. What do you got? Oh, hey, another thing that I'm starting to do, I think I discovered it. I found the five top jewelers in France, and they're all at a place called Pla de Verdun or something, or Verdun. Somebody can pronounce it better than that. Please help me out here. There's a place in Paris. There's this big obelisk made of melted down cannons. Really an interesting place, celebrating, I think, the Battle of Austerlitz. Not sure, but I think that's it. But it's called Plata de Verdun. Yeah, that's it. 9/11. Anyway, um, the five include Van Cleef and Arpels, Chaumet, um, I think Chanel, although it surprised me, Boucheron, and I think there was one other one. I forgot the name of it. But what I've discovered was that if I poke around these enough, I can find ones with really good movements. Like in the Chanel, I have the Chanel Monsieur Chanel, which is their first one they made with their high horology movement that was overseen by Romain Gautier. I have my Chaumet. Now my Chaumet has an ETA movement, but it has a module by Agenor in it. Van Cleef and Arpels. This one has a movement uh, by Agenor. Boucheron has some of theirs, and the movements are by Girard-Perregaux. I forgot what some of the other ones are. But the point of all of this is that a lot of them are significantly less expensive, even though they're really better cases and dials and a lot of other aspects than the sources. For example, um, Girard-Perregaux. Now, I I've always liked Girard-Perregaux, but I also know that the their options that they have for cases and styles and stuff are fairly limited. Um, not in a bad way, just as far as my own taste are concerned. But then you have these companies that make the jewelry and other aspects for these kings and queens, and here we are, the lumpen proletariat out there, picking up the pieces. And so that's one thing I'm sort of trying to get all five of these uh, famous French jewelers to see if I can find one with a decent movement in it. That's sort of a fun thing to do. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Oh, why? Yeah, great. I'm looking forward to that too, Jeff. This is going to be fun. We've got to pick a place and time for all of us to meet. I think on the High Horology Lounge, I'll try to put something up there that we could all agree on. See, we used to all sort of migrate to the mezzanine for two reasons. One, the bar was up there, it was sort of a private bar compared to the one on the main floor. But now they're having a dinner there, so that's probably going to take that out. And so we'll have to figure out one of the places to meet while we're there. Um, it's a lot of fun. I have a great time. My long-suffering wife comes along with me, but she's a great sport about the whole thing. And it's fun it's really a lot of fun to meet all the different people and talk watches and doing different things. What I was thinking of doing, I have my Etude number 2, and I was thinking of putting my Ming bracelet on it. The Ming bracelet is now on my Moritz Grossmann. And when I got that watch, it came with a really nice band with a color scheme. I think it was it's a black band with green stitching, and then it's got sort of the green theme and the hands and the indexes on it. So I'm going to go back to that and then see what my Etude number 2 looks like with a metal bracelet, just for fun. Of course, I break stuff so quickly when I start monkeying with them. So what else is going on? What was I tell you, the who was it that brought up, says you guys been asking if Larique did anything with the some Chinese watchmakers. And now the pretentious watchmakers, of which I am a proud member, we do nothing but with a lot of inexpensive Chinese parts that we get from AliExpress. But in terms of a sort of I'll call it high horology, it's just sort of almost become a shibboleth for God knows what. But I think that might be another goal, trying to find and create sort of a Grand Seiko in Japan, or even Creedor in Japan. It's sort of like a higher level that is more affordable. I think that'd be a great thing. Um, I had a friend of mine, Fernando, has got this Peacock Tourbillon. That's really nice. The Peacock Tourbillon that Fernando has was around a couple $1,000, something like that. And I tell you, it reminds me of some of the better Grand Seikos. It's really just really a beautiful watch. Anyway, there's a possibility. Anyway, guys, I tell you, I've been sort of yammering on for my time limit before the timekeeper comes crashing in with a frying pan and let me know my time is up. I better take off. Thank you guys for coming. I had a wonderful time. I much prefer hearing what you have to say than what I've got. So thanks again. Take care. See you next time.